Good afternoon and welcome to the regular meeting of the Public Health and Safety Committee for July 26, 2023. I am Latricia Vital and I'm the chair of this committee. At this time, I will ask the clerk to call a roll so we can verify a quorum for this meeting.
Councilmember Wansley is absent. Rainville.
Present.
Ellison.
Here.
Palmisano.
Present.
Vice Chair Payne.
Present.
Chair Vita.
Present.
There are 5 members present.
Let the record reflect that we do have a quorum. With that, the agenda for today's meeting is before us. Before we take up the items on the published agenda, I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add an item. The item is a presentation on the work of the Lead and Healthy Homes Unit in the Health Department. You have printed copies of the materials related to this item in front of you. This would be item 2 on the agenda. Can I please have a second on that motion?
Second.
The motion has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. That carries. Item 1 is a consent item. This is an item is accepting a grant from Hennepin County Human Services and Public Health Department to provide the health mentor model at school-based clinics. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, I will move approval of the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That carries and the consent agenda is approved. And our next item is receiving and filing a presentation on the work of the Lead and Healthy Homes Unit within the Health Department. Here to present is Lisa Smestad. Sorry, Lisa Smestad from the Health Department.
Thank you, Chair Vita. I'm Lisa Smestad, manager of the Lead Hazard Control and Healthy Homes Unit for the Minneapolis Health Department. Our abiding goal is to stop using children as lead paint detectors. We are changing our programming because usually we just respond after a child has been lead poisoned, and we're changing our programming and have been working a few years now to get to the issues before a child's poisoned. Because when a child's been lead poisoned, that results in permanent brain damage, and it makes it difficult for them to learn in school, and it affects the impulse center of the brains, which can have lifelong repercussions. So what are the most hazardous surfaces in the home? They're typically the back of the window sash and the window jambs, which is the picture on the far right. This paint was put on over 100 years ago. It lasted great for 40 years. Time's up, it's falling off all over on the windows. The window sills are a big hazard because they're at the mouth level where children like to teeth, and any painted floor, because when babies are crawling on floors, they will lick a floor. If you're a parent, you've seen that happen. And if it's a lead painted floor, that can have lifelong repercussions. Lead paint poisoning is an environmental justice issue. So here's a map of where we have been seeing it happen between 2015 and 2022. 74% of poisoned children are BIPOC. 82% are less than 80% of area median income. And 63% of properties are rental. And this is where we can make a really effective change in how we're directing our resources. So I want to point out the overlap between rental properties here on the left. In the middle are the properties that were built before 1978 when lead paint was banned, and that's all the yellow and green there. And on the far right is the children who are lead poisoning, the density. So you can see how these 3 things overlap. So we know where it's happening. We know how to direct our resources. One of the things that's also coming down the pike is in the state legislature last year, they changed the definition. It used to be they were calling children lead poisoned at 5 micrograms per deciliter, and they are dropping that down to 3.5. So we have the option to start doing inspections and writing corrective orders. We're working out how we're going to do that. That's going to about double our caseload, so we're working on aligning our resources and our response. We are hoping running some pilots maybe this year, and maybe next year we'll see how we roll that program out. I want you to know that these are medical referrals, so when a child goes in to their normal 2-year childhood checkup. That's when the blood lead test is being taken, and when that information all goes to the state, and then the state contacts us as the local jurisdiction responsible for going out and identifying the hazards and getting them corrected. So this shows the progress we've been making from June 2013, or from 2013 to June of this year. Actually, I did take off 2023, I'm sorry about that. So we believe that as inspections increase, we see childhood lead poisoning go down, and it's borne out by this graph. COVID was a very strange animal, and because children didn't go in and get tested, we think that was one of a couple of different drivers that then we saw increased lead poisoning in 21 and 22. But we think we're with that high peak of inspections you see there, that was with the ARPA money that was granted to the city so that we can get ahead of hazards and properties. And so we're kind of back on track. If you look at this, this is our rates in 2023. They're about half of what they were last year. That's kind of where we expected to be on track if things had gone as normal back in 2019. So I think this shows that we are making good progress and getting into the right properties. And I think the right properties is demonstrated by this chart here. We're going in with regulatory services when they're doing rental licensing inspections. That's a little easier on both the tenants and the landlords. It's just one appointment. We're all going in together. And then we're identifying lead hazards, and we are also offering them resources to correct the lead hazards at that point in time. And we're targeting the rental properties because 75% of lead poisonings, if we go back more historically than the last few years, are in rental properties. And we're selecting those by the areas that have traditionally the highest lead poisoning. And 79% of the houses we're going into have lead paint hazards. So the only thing missing there between that and an EBL is a 2-year-old. This is a picture of what it looks like when a property is undergoing a lead hazard reduction. We currently are running 3 federal grants that are bringing resources to our community. We have a HUD Lead Hazard Control Grant, a HUD Healthy Homes Grant, and the American Recovery Plan Act. The ARPA money is kind of unique. It's the easiest one to qualify for. So if the property is in this purple area, you automatically qualify for ARPA funds to come in and reduce lead hazards. So in those properties, we are targeting the windows, windowsills, and floors because those are the areas that we see are responsible for most of the lead poisoning. The other really interesting thing about this chart is 34% of the inspections we're doing are voluntary inspections. So we aren't coming in under compliance. This is where we've done outreach, and homeowners and rental property owners have reached back and said, yes, we want to take advantage of those resources that you have, and they invite us to come in. The HUD Lead Hazard Control Grant is running from 2020 to 2024. We're going to make 225 properties safe. We have about 26 slots left. People enroll in this grant either because a child's been poisoned or because they're choosing to do the prevention, mitigation of those lead hazards. This grant is based on the resident's income to qualify for this grant. We put about $12,000 per property in the grant. That can go up to $25,000. Kind of varies on the needs of the property. We also have additional $5,000 per property that we can put in to do other healthy home hazards like radon mitigation, handrails, electrical, plumbing, pest control. And our department has been working very hard to braid funds. So when we get, there's weatherization or climate change money, we serve as a vehicle. We're already in the house. We're working with the families and the property owners. We can bring additional resources to do more of a wraparound for that house, to do a deep dive on the house instead of just a shallow touch. And if people don't want to work with the city of Minneapolis, Hennepin County also has lead grants, so there's no excuse for not reaching out. There's a lot of money to help reduce lead hazards in our city. We have a Healthy Homes grant. HUD has just started handing these out. They're competitive grant projects, but they've just started in 2022 distributing them again. We're obligated for 115 properties, and we have 65 slots left. It's targeted to older homeowners, owners with disability, young children, or low income. And we're putting $10,000 per property in there to make these homes healthier. So we can address things like lead hazards, radon installation, insulation, furnaces, repairs of stairs, plumbing, electrical, pest control. It's very much a safety-focused program. And one of the ways we promoted this was in January is Radon Month, and we gave out over 400 free radon testing kits, and said, and then come and apply for the grant because we have resources to help you if you have high radon to install those. And this is a picture of a radon mitigation system. So this is the website where we talk about our grants. So we have, I just put the one grant here, but if you push that button, it feeds into the same application, and then we'll reach back to anybody who wants to apply. We've had difficulty in past years getting people to apply for the grants. Getting up on the website, we had a couple hundred applications in 2 months. So the change in technology and our social media change and how we advertise is showing benefits in getting people in touch with the resources we have to offer. We also just this year ended EPA Environmental Justice Grant. This ran from 2021 to this month. Its goal was to provide the community information and supplies on lead paint hazards, asthma, and safe cleaning around COVID. And we did a lot of outreach on healthy home environments and how to keep your home environment toxic free. And we did a lot of braiding of this funding with our asthma funding and the grants to provide a wider reach to the neighborhoods. The asthma program, we have one part-time staff. They were partially funded by that EPA grant that just ended. So our production might level off a little. But we go out to homes of people who have asthma, and of children who have asthma, and we bring products that research has shown actually help reduce the environmental allergen triggers. We try to focus on the child's bedroom so that they get a good night's sleep and they can get up the next morning and go to school. And we do that by providing an allergen vacuum for the house, a HEPA air cleaner for the child's bedroom, and then mattress covers and pillow covers that are allergen rated because they prevent dust mites, which is a very well-known allergen. With the Northern Metals Settlement money, when we're in a property in North and Northeast Minneapolis, we can also do integrated pest management and mold remediation. And with those funds, we've also provided a few hundred asthma spacers for inhalers. So sometimes the insurance programs provide one spacer for the asthma inhaler, but the child also needs to take their asthma medication at school, so that funding has provided those so that they can take their medication more effectively when they're in school. On the south side, we provide these products through the EPA grant that just ended and city general funds. And if somebody has a child with asthma, and we defined a child as anyone under age 21, they can go to our website, click a button, and fill out the application, and they will be contacted to come out, have someone come out and bring these products to their house and see if there are other items like housing items like mold, if you're in a rental property, that we can look at and get corrected. So what are our goals? It's to stop using children as lead paint detectors. I can't say that enough. And we want to stop the hazards. We know enough about where it is, the age of the housing, and the neighborhood, so we're moving to do more and more prevention inspections and get those hazards remediated before a child is brain damaged. We want to improve Minneapolis housing so it continues to be a great place to live, work, and play by creating healthier homes with our grant funding and providing education on the steps that residents can take themselves. And we want to provide information on how to reduce home environmental asthma triggers so that our homes are healthy places and aren't making us sick. Do you have any questions?
Thank you for the presentation, and I want to acknowledge that the mayor has joined us. Welcome, Mayor Fry. And are there any, Councilmember Ellison?
A couple of things, no real questions. Just wanted to say that this has been a priority addressing lead, I know for a number of council members. Obviously, Councilmember Vito and I have a great interest in this because we see it in our wards. We see, folks living in conditions where the kids are susceptible to these hazards. And so just want to say that I really appreciate not only, I think my original vision was just like disclosure. As long as more people know what the risks are, and I feel like you and your department and the health department have gone above and beyond and said, hey, we're going to put a lot of money into this. We're going to make sure that we are actually reducing the hazards that kids experience and that people experience. And so there's a lot that I could go through in the presentation and highlight as something that I find incredible, but really just wanted to thank you for the work and thank my colleagues and the mayor for raising this to a priority and funding these things at a level that can actually make sure that we're addressing them. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Payne.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Building off of Councilmember Ellison, definitely want to show appreciation for this work. I think it's really important. And I also want to maybe understand what the current budget reality is, especially as it relates to ARPA dollars and the fiscal cliff, grant dollars, and how stable or fickle those grant dollars are, and what we should be thinking about in terms of our long-term commitment to this. I wonder if you could just give a high-level view of what that budget reality is for you.
The ARPA funds was a very welcome addition to be able to do both the inspections and the rehabs in the properties. I think we are finally putting enough money, but that money ends in 2 years if we really want to solve the problem. Because when you look at that map, there's a lot of houses there, and we need to get the lead out of them, because as soon as you introduce a child to that environment, they are at risk of being poisoned. The grant dollars are competitive, but we've been successful for the last 20 years of getting them. And so one of the ways that the general fund really helps us to get other money is because of the leverage. So when we get these federal grants, we have a match requirement. And so we use our general funds in order to get that money. And there's a lot of restrictions and strings on the federal money. They're all targeted toward, you have to be under 80% AMI to qualify. One of the gifts of the ARPA money is we were able to finally do something for parents maybe that made more money than that and had a lead-poisoned child, and we're looking at $40,000 worth of repairs on their homes to make it safe. So we were able to, because of how that legislation was written, we were able to also assist some other families also. So general fund is always welcome, because I know that money will be there year after year and isn't subject to the fluctuations of the federal grant dollars.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rainville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Smestad,
Yes.
help me on that.
Yes, that's that.
Smestad, could you please contact my office? I'd like to speak to you a little bit more. I noticed on the maps that there are areas of my ward that are eligible for this help, so I would like to help you by helping inform the members of my community so they can get the help.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so please contact Henry and set up a time. Henry, my scheduler.
All right, we will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if it's not me, it will be Alex Fulmer or Ferdoza Omar, my colleagues here. I'm leaving soon.
Okay, that's fine. Whoever is best. Thank you.
let me just say something really quick, okay, Mayor? Then you'll have the floor. I want to say thank you so much for this work. You know, Councilmember Ellison has really mentored me in my office through the lead work. It was something that was important because, as he said, it's a big issue on the north side and for underserved families. So it was probably one of the first things that, you know, we got to work on at a high level. I'm so proud of the work that you and the entire health department has done to put the north side first in this. This is a huge problem for a lot of our children. And when I never forget when someone from the health department said, we're gonna stop using our kids as lead detectors. When you hear that for the first time, it shakes you. You really think about it in a different way than kids getting lead poisoning from touching old windows, or you really think about it differently when you think about people find out that lead is in their house or somewhere when their children are sick, when it's probably too late in some cases. And so this has been your life's work and others' life's work, and I appreciate it. Our children appreciate it. I know I'm not supposed to speak for everyone, but I am. Everyone appreciates this tremendous work, this undertaking of we're not going to let our children be lead detectors. I've had, my nephew was a lead detector, and now his son is. And so it's been wonderful working with you. I have appreciated all the things that you and the health department have taught me. I've appreciated Councilmember Ellison's leadership on this and making sure no matter what, we have money to fund this work. He has made it his mission to make sure that you all get what you need and we get what we need for the north side. So thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I'm gonna turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair and council members. You know, this is an issue that the more you learn about it, the more you understand its importance. Everybody comes into public service having a different passion, and you can't possibly be passionate about every single issue. But when you understand the long-term and permanent impacts regarding lead poisoning, you gain a deep appreciation for how incredibly important your work is. And Ms. Smestad, or also known as Beyonce of the Health Department, we're really grateful for your work, but I do have several questions. First, I understand that in the early 2000s, over 500 children in the city of Minneapolis would get lead poisoning in a year. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in
Those are the ones we
2023,
know about.
those that know about it. And in 2023, there are now less than 100 children affected, which can be at least partially attributed to a relentless force in the city of Minneapolis, which is you. Isn't that correct?
I didn't do it by myself.
And I also understand that, you know, you've been working for the city of Minneapolis and you've created a mission-driven culture in Lead and Healthy Homes program, which prevents lead exposure in youth. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And you've, since taking over the program, you've successfully landed $28 million in grant funding to address childhood lead poisoning. Isn't that correct?
That's true.
That's right. And you've been persistent in your work, and aptitude in funding has brought some really successful results, and you've remained unsatisfied until no child is affected by the lifelong consequences of lead poisoning. And you've also led the charge in compiling a full lead elimination plan by 2035, which lays out incentive programs to ensure that no child will be exposed to a dangerous level of lead in their homes. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And you've helped respond to, protect, and save countless children from the harmful effects of lead poisoning, and the city of Minneapolis will forever be grateful. And you're retiring from your position on August 1st, 2023, and the city of Minneapolis congratulates and thanks you for the so many years of incredible work. You don't need to answer that one. I'll just tell you that that is correct. But the final thing that is correct and needs to be acknowledged is that I do hereby proclaim July 26, 2023 is Lisa Smestad Day in the city of Minneapolis.
Yay, Lisa. If you want to say something, you can, Lisa. If not, we'll move on.
Just thank you very much for all your support and for seeing the problem for what it is, and that a problem that we actually can resolve for our children.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. Thank you, Mayor Fry. Thank you so much, Mayor Fry, for your help on this also, and for that wonderful proclamation. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next item. The next item is a discussion item, receiving and filing oh, no, I think we got to receive and file did I do that on the last item? You got it? All right. Thank you. The next item is receiving and filing an update on neighborhood programming. Here to present on this item is Stephen Gallagher from Neighborhood and Community Relations. Oh, Karen Mo's here. Welcome, Director.
Good afternoon, thank you, Chair. I am going to do just a quick introduction, but I'm a little bit moved right now. I don't know if this is appropriate. I'm just going to acknowledge to you that I started at the city, I don't know, in 2016, and I met Lisa Schmiested when I was working in regulatory services and came from the world of weatherization and energy assistance and working with households that qualified for programs like that. And I had the same reaction as you did, Chair, that I met Lisa shortly after I started working here, and she used that phrase that we should not be using our children as lead detectors, and it had a profound change on how I understood the work that we had to do in front of us. And I just want to say thank you to all of you, because when I started here, we were not listening to her. And I think the funding and the support that you all brought to the table has fundamentally changed that. The numbers obviously show it, but thank you for that.
Thank you.
So Chair Vita, council members, my name is Karen Moe. I am Director of Neighborhood and Community Relations, and I am very grateful to be standing here today. I just wanted to do a couple of acknowledgments before I turn it over to Stephen Gallagher, who's the manager of the Neighborhoods Program. First, I want to say thank you to council members. This legislative directive, we're here today to present on a legislative directive that came through in December of 2023. And I want to say thank you. When I started at Neighborhood and Community Relations, shortly before Stephen Gallagher started, the Neighborhoods 2020 work was actually already underway. And so we kind of came in a lot towards the tail end of a lot of work that was being done, led by the city, with community members, with our neighborhood organizations, and with council members and the mayor's office. And it was a lot of work. And in the last couple of years, we've started to implement the work that council directed us to do. And during that, Stephen and I have talked a lot around the need for us to do continuous improvement internally in our department to make sure that we are supporting our neighborhood organizations most effectively, and with our neighborhood organizations to make sure that they have the support that they need to be effective. This legislative directive, I think, actually follows that intention, that we continue as a city to check in on ourselves and make sure that we are actually having the impact that we want to. So I really appreciate you directing us to do it. It was our intention to do it, but sometimes it's helpful to have the deadline to have to come back and present on it, so thank you. I also want to say thank you to Chair Vita. I know that you have been super flexible and supportive with us. This legislative directive has quite a lot of directions in it. This is just the first of what we anticipate, at least 2 council presentations, just based off of the volume of research and information that we had to gather. And I just want to say thank you, Chair Vita, for your flexibility in working with our office to make sure that we had sufficient time. We are planning on coming back in August to follow up on some of the work. We're not going to get through everything today, so I'll just set the stage for that and say we're going to start today, and then we'll come back and continue the conversation in August. I also want to say thank you because Neighborhood and Community Relations manages the contracts and the relationships with our neighborhood organizations, but actually we do that on behalf of the entire city. And we could not do that work. And the legislative directive that we're responding to today, we really had to rely on our partners inside the city, including staff at Department of Finance and Development, Bob Cooper, Stacy Sorensen, and Brad Honnell, the city attorney's office, intergovernment relations, the city auditor, just to name a few of the staff that have spent time over the last couple months weighing in on this and spending quite a bit of time providing guidance. So thank you to all of those folks. I also want to just acknowledge, I'm not sure if you all have had the chance to meet all of our staff. And last year, with the retirement of Jack Whitehurst, who some of you may know, and with E. Trophic Burnett moving over to Department of Neighborhood Safety, we were able to add a couple staff. And so we have joining us today Tate Nguyen and Victoria Balco. We also have our senior neighborhood specialists, Erica Meyer and Araya Fine. And that makes up with Stephen Gallagher, the neighborhoods team. Those 5 folks are the ones who every day work to support our 70 neighborhood organizations. So I want to do a huge shout out. They've put a lot of work into this. Many of you know them, and if you don't, I hope you get the chance to meet them. They're fabulous staff. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen to walk us through the presentation today. And just a reminder that today we're kind of starting the conversation. We're really going to focus on the programmatic pieces, and we'll be coming back with respect to other processes. We'll be coming back in August to talk a little bit more about the financial pieces. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Gallagher. I am the Neighborhoods Program Manager for NCR. And I want to thank you for making some time here today. I am here for a requested council action to receive and file an update to the legislative directive that was done last December. And 1 second here. Have to have notes on my PowerPoint presentation. I'll just be flying blind. Can we have the notes section? Okay. Yeah, let's. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to do this from any notes that I have. So feel free to ask any questions as I go by. I do want to start the presentation with David Rubiter in one of his last presentations was, many of you know, as our previous director and passed away this last year. He started his last presentation with this quote, and it's, "Cities have the capability of providing something for everyone, for everybody, only because and only when they are created by everyone." This is from Jane Jacobs, The Death of Great American Cities. David really wanted to emphasize that the city of Minneapolis is here for all of the residents of Minneapolis. And by creating programs and policies, we really try to elevate those voices. This legislative directive had 4 main components that came through. And you'll see it has to do with looking at the different funding sources, the different pots of money, and also the NRP funds. And then lastly, provide some recommendations and analysis of the funding mechanisms and the feasibility for the next fiscal year. We're going to wait for the financial aspect until after the mayor releases his budget, and then we'll come back right away after the mayor releases the budget. I will say that this legislative directive, we actually broke down into 22 different subsections because it was a lot of information to go through. We did want to make sure that we maintained our equitable engagement fund, our racial equity components, and the goals of the Neighborhoods 2020 program. The first aspect also asked for recommendations to improve the citywide neighborhood network fund in order to maintain a full network of neighborhood organizations. And through breaking that down, as you can see, we wanted to make sure that we took analysis to what the base funding is needed. What does it take to run a compliant nonprofit, meaningfully engage all residents across their respective areas, grant management, and other day-to-day activities of neighborhood organizations. One of the first additional piece on there was per activity billing rate. I believe Councilmember Payne championed this aspect, and we'll cover in a little bit later. The second piece was analyze the effectiveness of all of the programs, report the results, and make recommendations to improve their utilization. The third aspect was to review and analyze or take a look at the $26 million of unspent NRP funds and offer insights into improvement of those funds as it relates to the 2020 program. And then lastly, as we talked about, the financial pieces that will come back on August 25th will be the date. This fund here really shows neighborhood organizations since 1992 have had about $311 million that have come into the program. This combines all of the NRP funds, program income, community participation, citizen participation, and Neighborhoods 2020. What really sticks out here is that just in 2022, there's 94,000 hours of volunteer time, which equates to just over $3.2 million of in-kind contributions with those volunteers. That's work that's local. It's work that volunteers and residents really invest into the neighborhoods. We'll start to get into the Citywide Neighborhood Network Fund. Yeah, just going to take a little bit of time as we're doing this to get my notes. All right. So the function of the Citywide Neighborhood Network Fund provides administrative costs, overhead costs, and other community organizing costs. However, this fund really has the responsibility to ensure that organizations are compliant with a litany of requirements. This could be the Internal Revenue Service, Minnesota Secretary of State, the Attorney General's Office, our contracts, and it reflects the best practices for nonprofits. One of the things that we found when we went through the initial application for the Neighborhood Network Fund was that 3 organizations actually lost their nonprofit status through this review. 7 others were close to losing, or 7 others actually lost their ability, were dissolved by the Minnesota Attorney General's Office to be a nonprofit. I say this not as a negative. I say this as a positive that we were able to work together to fix those issues through this process. And I can say that all neighborhoods, 69 out of 70 neighborhoods, are 100% compliant with both our requirements as well as all the other government entities. Next slide. This one, the partnerships with government programs, and this has to go with the per billing rate. Neighborhoods work with an array of government agencies, including the City of Minneapolis, Hennepin County, Park Board, School Board, Department of Transportation, Met Council, and many others. All of these governmental entities come over to neighborhoods to ask for assistance in their engagement and ask for their advice. However, since the sunset of the TIF in 2001, I believe it was, 2001, that relationship with those organizations have kind of diminished. So when we started looking into what are those relationships and what can they be going forward, we contacted those organizations. Hennepin County, they utilize neighborhood groups to engage on projects and programs. They actually have 2 contracts with neighborhood organizations around the Blue Line. And they reached out, they responded to an RFP, and they're current in those projects. Now, Hennepin County started a new outreach and community support department, which is very exciting. They're about 6.5, 7 months old. They created a trusted messenger program for a lot of community-based organizations to help get the word out. But they also created a community engagement roster. And this is where organizations sign up to be part of the roster. They're essentially the small business program or the TMP for engagement purposes. Neighborhood organizations are now invited to sign up for this so they could be paid for engagement with the county. So this is just extending it a little bit more. Hennepin County has also agreed to come to the table when we kind of discuss further what it might look like for all of these entities to come together, maybe for a suite of services or to define what roles neighborhoods and those entities can play together and what kind of cooperation we can do going further. The Minneapolis Park Board was really excited about the conversation as they are a permanent member of the policy board and they have a long history of cross-investment. I say this because neighborhoods have put millions of dollars into the park board, into park facilities through their NRP funds. Neighborhoods are using space. They're using space for offices, they're using space for events and for meetings. And it is the park board's standard practice to engage with neighborhoods when projects come forward. However, one thing we're finding is there's no record keeping about that relationship. What is the return on investment from neighborhoods utilizing park space and parks utilizing the neighborhood organizations? So over the course of 2023, the remaining part of the year, we're going to do some data collection to find out what is that relationship and what can the park board, along with the city, how can we make that relationship even more solid, if you will? Some feedbacks from neighborhood organizations where the park board was creating some programming in local neighborhood parks, but the neighborhood organizations had no idea about that programming. Now we're coming to the table to see where we can work together to sponsor programs together, reduce or eliminate fees, permit fees, things like that, and actually be partners going forward instead of having two independent programming. Oftentimes it happens in the parks. I will say the Minneapolis Board of Education, they are also a permanent member on the policy board. They do have a history of working with neighborhoods, and for an example, Whittier neighborhood utilized their NRP funds to actually help create the Whittier Neighborhood School, which is a very successful school within the system. Currently, they do not use neighborhoods as an engagement partner, but neighborhoods do utilize property space and meeting space. However, the school district right now is unable to commit to anything financially as they are running into some problems with the number of students and the amount of money that comes in from the state based on student enrollment. They're willing to have a discussion, but not willing to commit to anything further than that. I will say that I was very impressed with city departments when it came to CPED, Public Works, Reg Services, Police Department, and others, willing to come to the table to talk about how they utilize neighborhood organizations and what are some potential ways for them to partner going forward. I was here, I believe it was last week, when Public Works came forward and talked about snow shoveling and neighborhood organizations maybe being part of that solution. Those are the type of programs or things that we'll be bringing forward in a work group to see how we can really bring forward the city and different city departments and explore opportunities to expand those relationships within neighborhoods. We want to potentially create like a suite of services. I'll give an example. The Minneapolis Police Department might call on a neighborhood organization to have a community meeting on a level 3 sex offender that comes into the neighborhood. The neighborhood organization oftentimes door knocks, they flyer, they get information out. The police department shows up to give the information, but the neighborhood does all the work. If we can establish what is that rate that it could very well be, well, maybe it's, let's say, hypothetically $500 for a meeting for all that work. We want to make that consistent through all of our government partners, so there isn't 70 different negotiations going on with 5 different funding partners. So, okay. And feel free to interrupt me because I may forget some things as we go forward. I'm going to transition into the effectiveness and we'll kind of go through the programs here. The Equitable Engagement Fund, the purpose is projects, programs, outreach and engagement activities, and engaging communities throughout the city with a focus on equity. Each neighborhood organization uses data to understand their demographics of their neighborhood organization. They search for the historically underrepresented community members in their neighborhood. With that, they make a plan how to reach out to those folks and involve them into the neighborhood. So those plans actually identify engagement strategies that are tailored to the folks that they want to ensure are part of their neighborhood organization. This encourages neighborhood organizations to remove barriers to participation within their own organization and encourages more voices at the table. And I think we all know here, representation matters where decisions are being made. And so it's very encouraging. I will say that we just did a neighborhood board representation. This is after 18 months, really, of the program being in effect. We've already seen just about a 3.1 increase in the number of renters on neighborhood boards, which is quite significant. It's 200 more people, 200 more renters that have come in to the neighborhood organizations. Pretty significant. When we look at the 3.1% number, it doesn't say the actual story behind folks coming to the table, expressing themselves and what they need at the local level. Additionally, this board diversity survey showed that we have around a 4.3% increase in Black, Indigenous, and people of color serving on boards. And this equates to about 100 more Black, Indigenous, and community members of color serving on neighborhood boards. 100 more in 18 months that have come forward through different practices of neighborhood organizations, relating their equitable engagement plans and turning them into action to bring new faces onto the neighborhood. Again, 4.3% doesn't seem like a lot, but 100 new people that have never been part of the neighborhood organizations are now sitting on the table. That's huge in my estimation. That will continue as we go down. Now we're going to go into the Partnership Engagement Fund. And this engagement fund ensures all residents have an avenue for engagement practices, especially residents from historically underrepresented communities. Community-based organizations and neighborhoods partner together to try to work on projects and programs to try to bring folks together. I believe we were here a couple months ago to speak on some contracts that came forward to the Partnership Engagement Fund and showed a heartwarming video. I also want to say that there are quite a few Partnership Engagement Fund recipients here today because they're invested in this program. When we talk about the Partnership Engagement Fund, it's not an NCR fund per se, as Karen talked about, how this is more of a citywide piece. But you'll notice that, this is designed by community, reviewed by community, and community needs are identified. But we also look at other pieces of the city. You'll notice like the Minneapolis 2040 Comprehensive Plan, climate initiatives, healthy food, parks, and employment, green zones, racism as a public health emergency, strategic equity action plan. All of those pieces, the Partnership Engagement Fund touches. The map on the left-hand side shows the neighborhood partners in the last 2 years. These are the neighborhoods, the darker, the more projects. The one on the right shows where are the project's locations. You'll notice that the locations are spread out through the entire city of Minneapolis. This is my favorite one. So the Partnership Engagement Fund, when you take a look at the city of Minneapolis, here's some areas of racial covenants of our history. Areas of concentrated affluence. So the Metropolitan Council started to also identify areas of concentrated poverty and concentrated affluence. Those are systematically connected together. And so when we look at these, Also, damage during civil unrest is on here. Green zones initiatives. Areas of concentrated poverty. And then the areas of the community locations, the partnership engagement funds. You'll notice that the majority of these are in areas of the greatest need in the city through these other data metrics. These are different funds, different needs for different funds. The Partnership Engagement Fund is competitive, one-time funds. They are not for general operations. They're used for new or expanded programming, and they specifically focus on engaging historically underrepresented communities. Neighborhood funding, however, is about $3 million a year, non-competitive allocation, covers engagement focus, and does cover general operations, and there's been ongoing funding for over 30 years. In fact, the city of Minneapolis has invested in neighborhoods approximately 55 years. And then neighborhoods are equity focused starting in 2021. And that's no required outcomes to receive that funding. I do want to mention the Partnership Engagement Fund leadership representation. About 70% of the leaders of the Partnership Fund programs are Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Tenants actually make 41.2% of the leadership in the Partnership Engagement Fund. I do want to say that 52.6% of the city population are renters. So we're a little bit short on that gap as well. Moving on to the Collaboration and Shared Resources Fund. This fund provides organizations with the resources to support their voluntary consolidation efforts or merging or sharing of staff. We've had 7 applications from 18 organizations. 4 were to share staff and collaborate on projects. And 14 were looking at a full merger. I believe there's going to be 4 to 6 neighborhoods that are expected to complete their activities, including mergers, within the next 12 months. And this is really exciting for even the programs that didn't go forward with merging. What they did is they took a deep dive into their finances, on their programming, what they're able to do, what kind of staff they might need. And they were able to do a deep dive and create actually a strategic plan for their own organization, even if they didn't move forward with merging. More solid relationships between organizations developed out of this. So I don't think this is a negative. However, I will say, I believe we started this project a year early. When we started it, it was in the middle of civil unrest after the murder of George Floyd. There was COVID-19. We started this program, and I think we were early in that first year. It didn't give neighborhoods enough time to plan on any collaborations or mergers. The second and third year we did this, we saw a lot more interest, a lot more people wanting to come in and wanted to kind of look at better ways to operate together. This is the big one that I think a lot of neighborhood organizations are wondering about, as well as some council members. I wanted to talk, there's about $14,476,000 in uncontracted funds that have already been allocated to neighborhood organizations. Additionally, there's about $11.6 million in contracted but unspent funds. Those funds are allocated to the neighborhoods. And by ordinance, any income received through program income stays with the neighborhood that generates that program income. What's interesting here is that the NRP funds received through the capitalization of the TIF program was about $226 million. However, through neighborhood programming, the neighborhoods have expended $240 million. So they've managed to leverage these funds, receive program income, and continue. The NRP program started in 1991, and it was supposed to be a 20-year program. We're in year 32. It's a good use of funds that they've done. The remaining funds, you'll notice that 1/3 of uncontracted funds are held by Hawthorne, Jordan, Near North Willett-Hay, and Longfellow. They also received a lot of funds in the beginning, had a lot of program income that's come back. And these are the areas of concentrated poverty and the most need of support. So there was some talk about bringing the NRP fund balance, I don't want to say claw back, but utilize those funds for different purposes, different neighborhood purposes. That would actually, I believe, hurt the overall neighborhood system if we were to do something like that. And then I will say we also have a legal opinion that states that by doing so would cause neighborhoods to have two sets of rules, one for the Neighborhoods 2020 program, another set for the NRP program. They don't come together. One's general funds, one not. The NRP funds themselves have a lot of strings attached where you can't do food, entertainment, renters. You can't really help renters a lot. It's more of a capital project. And again, this was developed in 1991. This is what was needed in 1991 to help our housing stock. Now we're seeing we need to engage more residents in the programs as well as in the city. One of the questions from the legislative directive was how can we create more flexibility with the NRP funds as well as make sure that those funds are expended. In 2015, NCR developed an NRP expenditure policy that was approved, I believe, at the council level. And in this, neighborhoods identified action plans to spend those funds between 5 and 7 years. All neighborhoods with the NRP allocation were mandated to plan on these fund expenditures. We plan on doing a renewed focus on that expenditure policy. And I'll be completely honest, in 2015, Director Moe and myself were not here. This fell through the cracks. And then we learned about it, and there's some ways that we're going to implement and try to get neighborhoods to have more training on what they can spend their NRP funds, help them plan long-term, how those funds can be activated within the community. Another question of the legislative directive is how much NRP funds should be in a reserve? This was an interesting question, as NRP funds were never intended to be reserved for neighborhood operations, short-term, long-term, but they were intended to be active to improve neighborhoods and residents' lives. And then I also want to say that the Neighbors 2020 program required neighborhoods to prepare and implement a fundraising strategy. Some neighborhoods indicated that the only funds that they will go after is the city of Minneapolis, however much is within the program. Additionally, I want to point out that neighborhood organizations are independent 501c3 organizations. They are able to have fundraisers, they're able to write grants and have other fundraising mechanisms. I don't believe we can say that NRP funds should be used for a reserve, but rather NRP funds should be used to plan how the organization is going to operate for the next 5 to 7 years. Again, we're in year 31, 32 of an NRP program that was scheduled to be 20 years. One of the biggest feedback that I received when I was a neighborhood, I was a neighborhood executive director for about 10, 12 years. And I hear this all across the system, is that the NRP Policy Board for NRP Phase 2 mandated that 70% of all of their funds be dedicated towards housing. The reason behind this is that the state of Minnesota dictated that 52.5% of all NRP funds be spent on housing in the time in 1991. So in order to meet that 52.5% threshold, the policy board said 70%. Reviewing those numbers, neighborhoods are on track to exceed that goal by $5 million. It's our recommendation that in order to create flexibility, we remove that barrier to neighborhood organizations to spend money on housing. This does not prohibit them from spending money on housing, but rather create some flexibility there. This also allows neighborhoods to spend money or assist in renters, being flexible in the needs of the community, and reduces barriers to responding to the needs of the community. After the murder of George Floyd, during COVID, we had to say no too many times to what neighborhoods wanted to do with their NRP funds in order to respond to emerging and immediate needs. This would break down some of those pieces in order for them to be able to respond when things come forward. We feel like this is actually a pretty important piece, and it has a lot of support from neighborhood organizations and themselves. I do want to mention that for a long time, interest rates were not compatible with banks, that neighborhood organizations could provide. There's a lot of strings that are attached with state funding when it comes to utilizing TIF dollars for any development projects. And the amount per neighborhood is not enough to really have a seat at the table. When you look at large projects with tens of millions of dollars, and a neighborhood could provide $100,000 into a housing project, oftentimes developers are not willing to take on the additional risks, the additional strings for that. So I think that's a lot of the reason why these funds have not been used. Additionally, we used to have 4 different servicers for loans. We allow neighborhood organizations to do a grant program, but not loan programs, because that takes servicing that loan. So oftentimes it would be like Greater Minnesota Housing Fund, Center for Energy and Environment. Some of those went away. We have been able to recapture or start new contracts with 2 new vendors, but there's not a lot of money in the housing sections of the NRP program right now. So our recommendation would be to eliminate the 70% housing expenditure for the remaining NRP Phase 2 funds. This was reviewed by both DFD as well as the City Attorney's Office, who recommended that we bring this to the Policy Board first and then bring it back to the Council for your affirmation. On the last meeting I was here, we talked about the current NRP Policy Board and the plans to increase participation or membership of that policy board from 4 neighborhood representatives to 8. The purpose of the policy board is to advise council, make recommendations, review plan modifications over $200,000. This started as a joint powers agreement with all the funding partners. When we talk about Park Board, School Board, Library Board, Hennepin County, and the city, they're still members as long as there's some original NRP funds available. They are members of the NRP Policy Board. There's 5 elected officials currently, and there's 4 neighborhood representatives. The city clerk, the City Attorney's Office, and NCR are continuing to pursue changes to the ordinance as requested by the council previously. The appointments, so an idea to transition between the ordinance change and the election of new members would be for the NRP Policy Board members currently to appoint 3 additional members to serve until such time as we can have an election by the neighborhood organizations about who they wish to have represent them at the policy board. I will say this as well. There's been some misinformation about the policy board and the way the elections will come forward. The city attorney, city clerk's office are working at creating a draft ordinance that would be presented to neighborhood organizations in 2 weeks, and with the goal of having 6 districts and 2 at-large members, each one of those districts comprised with various neighborhood organizations, and they will actually select the member that they would like to have serve on the policy board for that term. I think this was a miscommunication on our part when it first went out, where all residents would select, but neighborhood organizations want the ability to select who's on the policy board, because the policy board is important in how we run these programs going forward. So you'll see something come forward probably within 2 weeks or so from the city clerk and the city attorney's office. And then through this all, we looked at making sure that we had an equity focus, an equity lens, looking at all of our programs. It's a core tenet of NCR, and we want to make sure Minneapolis has an equitable civic participation system that enfranchises everyone, recognizes the core and vital service neighborhood organizations provide to the city of Minneapolis, and builds people's long-term capacity to organize and improve the lives of the neighborhoods. I think, and then the last one is the summary of recommended actions. I believe you've also had a copy of our legislative update, the narrative that was included in the packet, which is a little more detailed than this slide presentation. But one would be the 70% housing expenditure policy, request IGR work with the state legislature to allow public officials to designate a NRP policy board rep. Currently, the mayor is the only person that's allowed to have a designee that comes to the policy board. Otherwise, all elected officials that are on have to show. You can imagine at 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, it can be hard to get a quorum. Again, we talked about the request of the city attorney's office, city clerk, and NCR to work at implementing and changing the NRP policy ordinance, and then the policy board appointing 4 members until which time an election occurs. So kind of a transition between the two. I think most of the questions will probably come up in the August 25th meeting, when we'll talk about allocation tables, how much each neighborhood would receive. We've been working with DFD, the mayor's office, to try to get those numbers solidified, and respecting the budget process, we'll be coming back August 25th, right after the mayor releases their budget. And I can honestly say that I'm excited about showing this, because we've done a lot of work on ensuring that we stay within an equitable framework and equitable lens, while still honoring the work that neighborhood organizations do and have done. So I'm excited to bring that forward to you. I believe it's August 25th.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher, and thank you for that presentation. Is there any discussion? I see Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for this presentation. I think you've helped to categorize some of the different things that you've looked at, and you've tried to give a really thorough look about where you're at right now. I'd like to dig a little deeper into some of these concepts, especially as they impact the financial viability of all neighborhood associations. But I'll wait till the presentation on August 23rd to do that. But I think they really need to be taken into context and totality, because something I'm not very satisfied with is the lack of focus on maintaining neighborhood associations across our city. Yeah. We have 70 neighborhood organizations. I'm not sure why the collaboration fund needed to necessarily take away from the total of neighborhood funding to do that work, to do that effort. I see that out of it we got 2 maybe mergers or collaborations. And I agree that particularly for these smaller neighborhoods that is a need. We have to look at sharing resources. We have to look at being a little bit more efficient in that work. So I'm a little bit concerned about the amount of time spent justifying the partnership fund and not enough on just the good work that neighborhoods do, or that the network of neighborhoods do. Something that I know worked pretty well in the planning of it worked well, and it's something that we learned from the atmosphere post-murder of George Floyd, was how effective in communications a full network of neighborhoods could be. And one of the really important items that we put in place was a way to get information better from the community back to the city. Instead, we were just communicating from the city out. And what we learned from all the pain that we went through in 2020 was that we need to do better in being able to hear what's coming the other direction too. And a lot of neighborhood organizations stepped into that space immediately, but we worked to really more or less formalize that, a little bit better. Well, that's what I have for now.
Actually, can I say something? Chair, Council Vice President, I apologize that if I didn't stress the importance of neighborhood organizations and the work they do in Minneapolis. This is a premier program throughout the country. We get called every month from different cities asking how we do our work in Minneapolis because this is the gold standard. We recently went to El Paso and were one of the main speakers to show how our programming has been working. And this is just continuing. I've had invites all across the country to come speak to different city council members to talk about how we were able to do it. Seattle, Portland, others have just given up on their neighborhood organizations and went to a combined grant program. We here, it's in the Minneapolis 2040 plan, it's within our own documents. We value the relationship between neighborhood organizations and the city of Minneapolis. It is a core tenet of the work that we do here. And I apologize if I didn't make that clear, but we want to uplift the neighborhood organizations and not downplay them, so I apologize if it came across that way.
If I may, I appreciate that. At a different committee meeting, I think you yourself acknowledged that it actually takes capacity to be able to administer and partner these grants. And neighborhoods that then don't get funded enough have less and less time and capacity to do that work. So it's almost like the winners become bigger winners, so to speak, which is not a problem, but the problem is that the losers become bigger losers because they're squeezed of any capacity to do some of that grant writing or fundraising or other type of work.
Yeah, Chair, Council Vice President, I believe in August 25th, we've worked really hard internally to take a look at what does it take to run a neighborhood organization? What is the minimum amount needed for that, and how to move forward. I think we learned over the last couple of years, and we've had a lot of feedback from both council and neighborhood organization and others. One thing that really stuck out to me was Whittier Neighborhood Organization receives around $160,000 a year. Their executive director told me it is very hard to do work with surrounding neighborhoods that don't have enough money to have a minimum amount of staff. That stuck with me, and we brought that forward, and I hope to relate that coming forward.
Thank you. Vice Chair Payne.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I felt that this map that overlaid the areas of concentrated poverty, the areas of concentrated wealth, and where our engagement fund projects are, and this really helps to visualize how effective it is to have this program target those areas. And I think that one of the challenges with neighborhoods is, like you said, we're 32 years into a 20-year program. We just have some fiscal realities that are just a real challenge. And so for those limited resources, I'm really encouraged to see that those dollars are getting spent in the areas of highest need. And I think that is appropriate, even though we do still have a lot of neighborhoods that are feeling the pinch of the lack of resources. But I actually had a more technical question around the spreadsheet with the unspent or uncontracted and unspent. Could you just share what that distinction is, and maybe like what's the timing? Because it seems like both of those categories have been approved, spending approved by our policies or through our process, but haven't been spent yet. So I'm just curious if there's like a kind of a rough timeline that we would want to see the unspent dollars spent and then the uncontracted dollars contracted.
Chair, Councilmember Payne, that's the $1 million question, literally, the tens of $1 million question. I don't know if there should be like a definite time period that these funds should be expended. What we should be doing, or we will be doing, is asking neighborhoods to plan about how they're going to spend these funds in the coming years and stick to that plan so they can identify, re-identify the needs of the neighborhood and any projects that they want to move forward. Put that into a plan and then utilize that at every board meeting and how they operate going forward. There are a significant amount of funds, but if you look at like Hawthorne, Jordan, near North Willard, hey, there's a lot of need there. And so there is a time, or the time is now, for them to prioritize what those needs are and to put these NRP funds into action. And just, I want to clarify that contracted and uncontracted mean that the fund doesn't mean the funds don't stay with the neighborhood. It's just that they're contracted, they've already put those funds into action, and that they're currently being acted on. The uncontracted funds are those funds that neighborhoods haven't developed a plan for yet. And so those are the funds that we would like them to develop a plan of how you're going to move forward. I will say, I feel a lot of neighborhood organizations are utilizing some of those uncontracted funds to augment their administration, because there's not enough funds in the Neighborhoods 2020 program to provide enough for administrative purposes. But that was actually part of the planning of Neighborhoods 2020, knowing we had these other funds and the Neighborhoods 2020 funds, bringing them together in order to have some administrative pieces on there. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think so. So that, if I'm understanding it correctly, this column around uncontracted funds, these are theoretically dollars sitting in their bank account that could be deployed as long as it meets the requirements around NRP.
Chair, Councilmember, you're 100% correct. However, it's not their bank accounts. The city holds those funds.
Got it.
Through the Division of Finance Property Services Division.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Payne. And thank you, Mr. Gallagher. You know I think you're wonderful. We've done some good work. We have a lot more to do. I think what I liked about the presentation, I'm still processing and very happy to know that I have until August to really process in my mind this information you've shared today. You're always available for questions, concerns, whatever, so that makes me feel good too. But I love the part where you said, you know, this was created in the 90s and we're living in different times now, and we really have to be flexible and adjust. And that's where that's the strong part for me. That's what I really want us to work on as a city, is how do we adjust and adapt to the needs of the people in neighborhoods now, underserved communities, you know, communities that we know have dealt with redlining and racial covenants and all these things that you brought up today. So my office is looking forward to working with you in the entire department. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I would like to thank all of you, as we've had discussions about what your visions are, what you see, as well as other council members and other city departments. This, I don't want to say is an NCR report, but it's really a report from a combination of all of us coming together to kind of review these pieces. And we're going to continue that in August after the mayor releases his budget.
Thank you. And seeing no further discussion, I will direct the clerks to receive and file this presentation. And seeing no further business before us, I will declare this meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.